Welcome into the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. Tom Leach, along with Keeneland's Director of Simulcasting, Jim Goodman. And we have stakes races from Churchill Downs, Penn National, Woodbine, and Santa Anita to talk about today. And, Jim, a special note about Penn National for folks that are going to be coming out to Keeneland to play simulcasting on Saturday.
Yes, when we put out the calendar, we did not have Penn National on the schedule, but after I actually handicapped the races, I looked at the schedule. It makes sense for us to carry it. They first post is at 6 o'clock in the Penn Mile, which is the fourth race of the Pick 4. It goes off at 7:31. So we'll carry it. We'll probably be open Saturday night until at least 9:30. So you'll get all the stakes races from Penn National. So you can either play them Keeneland Select if you're at home, or you can come out to Keeneland and you can play Penn National. Indiana Downs has a late post, a 5 o'clock post, I think. So we'll have late racing from Santa Anita, Indiana Downs, and from Penn National on Saturday night.
We'll start with the 9th race at Churchill Downs on Saturday, which is the Grade 3 Aristides, and this is for sprinters. Race that's had some impressive list of winners in, say, the last 10, 12 years. Miko Margarita, probably the one to beat in here, and who'd you go with?
I'm trying to beat him with Brewing on the inside. I took a shot here. I looked at Delaney. I've really liked him in the past. He's a 7-furlong specialist, shortening up to 6. I think there are some reasons to bet against him. He's only had a couple of good races this year, and his last buyer was a 90 in Churchill Downs on Oaks Day. So I think that he's a good bet against. I'm going to take Brewing. He's coming out of the Chick Lang at Pimlico on Preakness Day. Held the lead to the top of the stretch, then got beat by 3 lengths by Meadowwood, and I think prior to that he won 3 in a row. So I'm going to take Brewing on top. I'm going to use Miko Margarita underneath, the 4-horse. I'm going to use Delaney to get the money, and also Jake Moe, the 5-horse for Miguel Mena and Brett Calhoun. But Brewing is my long shot, 8-1 on the morning line.
I'm taking a little bit of a price in here. A horse that actually picked on Derby weekend at a turf race, Scatman. Second off a layoff. Trainers Keneally's having a really good meet, and this horse goes second off the layoff for him. Horse is 2 for 3 at Churchill, 3 for 5 at 7 furlongs. So just for what I think will be a decent price, some good numbers there to give me some faith in Scatman. So I'm going to try him. I'll key him in exactas with Miko Margarita and Jake Moe, and I'm going to take a stand against Delaney and Brewing. I feel more confident going against Delaney than I do Brewing, but I may live to regret that one. But I'm going to go Scatman in the Aristides. Let's go to Penn Mile. It's their 4th race, and they do have an all-stakes pick 4 to start with, and some good fields in the 4 stakes races. The Penn Mile will be graded as soon as it qualifies. 3-year-olds going a mile on the turf. They had a good field last year. Good field again here. Global View was a nice winner on Derby weekend, beating out Storming Inti. Both of them are in here. I'm going with Bobby's Kitten, and I think he was really good last year. Of course, in here, I'm going to just throw out the Bluegrass race. And Castellano stays. This horse had 4 workouts since the Bluegrass. But probably the one thing that pushed me in Bobby's Kitten direction more than anything else is Chad Brown enters 2 in here. And I think, to me, the Ramseys are his bigger client. So I wouldn't think he's planning on getting their horse beat with one of his other clients. And for that reason, I'm going to take Bobby's Kitten, thinking he's the best, and Storming Inti, they thinking maybe he could get second or third money in here. So Bobby's Kitten for me. I'll use him over the normals and exactas, which would be Divine Oath, Global View, and Storming Inti. But the play I would suggest in here is a horse named Laddie Boy that really ran a nice race last time in the Derby trial. Bred to like turf, hadn't run on it yet. So I'm going to key Bobby's Kitten on top, Laddie Boy in the 2nd and the 3rd hole in trifectas, and then use those other 3. So it would be 4 over 158 over 3, 4 over 3 over 158. What about you in the Penn Mile?
I'm going to think Bobby's Kitten is going to go over a bit because of the connections, and I'm going to try to beat him here. I agree that he's the better of the 2 Brown entrants, but I'm going to go with Divine Oath. I like the Lexington race last time out of Keeneland. Finished second to Mr. Speaker, who's going today in another race at Penn, and I think Divine Oath has a lot of upside for Pletcher. Castellano, of course, got off and went to Bobby's Kitten. That's a downside, but DeCarlo's a decent jockey, and only 3 lifetime starts, was 2 for 2 on turf, and hit the poly last time at Keeneland, and gets back to turf here. And I think good bet at 6-1, 7-1 on the outside. I'm going to take Bobby's Kitten and Stormin' NT below. Laddie Boy has a shot at 15-1 in Global View, and comes out of the same race as Stormin' NT and finish right next to each other. So I'm going to take Divine Oath at a price over the rest of those horses that we mentioned.
I did put on my Weekend Warrior blog for KeenelandSelect.com a all-stakes pick 4 play. I took Ready to Act, Ready's Legend, and Interrupted in the first leg. I took 5 horses in the second leg, the Turf Sprint. Ben's Cat didn't run in it this year, so I took the 2, 3, 5, 8, 10. I didn't have a strong opinion in here. And then you've got older horses running in the next leg, the Mountain View, the third. And certainly I would have to take a look at Last Gunfighter, but I don't think he's a cinch first out. Valid's the one I kind of like in here. Thought he ran pretty well in the Pimlico Special, and down on the inside, maybe able to go wire to wire in here. So I'd use him, Last Gunfighter, and then the 8-horse Percussion for Pletcher, and then I'd single Bobby's Kitten. Did you do a pick 4?
Yeah, you stole my horse. I was gonna take Valid in the third race, and you had to pick him. So I think the Valid's got a real shot. Drawn inside, stretching out to a mile and an eighth. Third race off a layoff, and I really like Valid in the Mountain View. It's a tough race, but I'm gonna take a stand there with him. Probably not gonna single him. You can't single a 10-1 shot. I'm gonna single Ready to Act in the first race. I think Chad Brown and Castellano. I think that's the best single in the sequence. I like a horse in the second race called Great Attack on the outside. I don't like the 11th post position, but he could get a good stalking trip. I'm also going to use Married to the Music, the 3, and Stormy Rush, the 1. So I'm going to go Ready to Act with 1, 3, 11, and I'm going to take Valid, and the other horse that I liked in the Mountain View was Golden Ticket. So I'm going to go 1, 7 there, with as many as you could afford in the last race. I think the ones that we mentioned, I wouldn't single Bobby's Kitten at all. I would use the other horses that we talked about. I would use Divine Oath. I would use Global View, possibly even Lady Boy to get a price. But the single, for me, is Ready to Act in the first leg.
Go to Woodbine next. It's their 8th race of the Grade 2 Connaught Cup, 4-year-olds and up, 7 furlongs on the turf. You got some horses that we saw in the Keeneland Spring Meet in here. Something Extra, Escaper, horses that ran pretty well at Keeneland this spring. Who did you go for in the race at Woodbine?
I wanted to go with Last Track, but I just can't. Switching surfaces, has done well on synthetic and had a couple of turf races back early in his career, but I don't think that he's ready for this kind of competition. I like Escaper. I liked Occasional View, the 8. I like River 7 a lot, especially 2 for 3, 1 for 3 at Woodbine, 3 for 3 in the money. But the horse that I liked was Mr. Online. I think you look at his last 5 races; they've all been at a mile, which is there's not much difference in 7 furlongs and a mile on turf, and just consistent right one after the other. And I think he's due for a big win. He's been beaten at the wire by Reload and a really nice horse, Gulfstream, called Hey Leroy in the Grade 3 Appleton last out. So I like Mr. Online a lot here, but I like River 7 at a possible price on the outside. And I'm going to do an exacta box of those 2. I might throw Last Track in and the trifecta underneath.
Something Extra is who I ended up on. Looks more like a 5.5 specialist, but he is 2 for 3 at 7 furlongs. Seems to love Woodbine's turf course. And the horse that won the race he comes out of at Keeneland was really impressive, Marchman, coming back to win on Derby weekend. So I'm going to try Something Extra, and then I probably would do a 4-horse exacta box instead of keying on Something Extra. I just put Something Extra with Escaper, the 1, the 9, River 7, and the 7, Mr. Online, 3 of the ones that you liked a lot. So those 3 plus Something Extra and a 4-horse exacta box for me at Woodbine. Santa Anita has a couple of graded stakes races. First up's the 7th. It's the Grade 2 Californian. I ended up going to Storm Fighter here. Comes off a 104 buyer. It was in restricted company, but it's tied for the highest in the field. I'm a little leery because of stepping out into open company, and he hasn't done well in those situations before. But it looks like he's in career best form. Loves Santa Anita, and if he's ever going to do it, this might be the time. Maldonado's riding really well right now, so he stays. Fury Cap Corey's the one to beat. Sky Kingdom for Baffert could be dangerous, and I'd also take a little look at Fly Alexis Fly, the 8, who could be running late. But Storm Fighter for me is going to be the key horse, and I'll use him as the key horse in exactas with those other 3. What about you in the Grade 2 Californian?
Well, the Fury Kept Corey is the 2 and Stormfighter the 6. You can make a case for both of them, and Stormfighter is really rapidly improving. Last 3 buyers are 82, 95, 104. The distance here, a mile and 8, is a question for both those horses. Fury Kept Corey did run a mile and 8 in the Pennsylvania Derby last year, but hasn't been that far lately. And of course, Stormfighter has never been that far. I'm going to take Sky Kingdom because he won the Tokyo City here at a mile and a half last year, so there's not going to be any question about his stamina. And I'm thinking that the mile and 8 might get to the top 2, so I'm going to take Sky Kingdom at a little bit of a price for Martin Garcia and Bob Baffert.
8th race at Santa Anita is the Grade 1 American Oaks. 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a quarter on the turf. Where did you land here?
Room Service to me is an easy one. Catalano is the co-Ashland winner, dedicated last year with Rosalind, and she really ran well. If you will go back and watch that race, she was 12 lengths out of it after a half mile, and they won. They finished 7 lengths ahead of the third place horse. So Room 7 to me, they rested her a little bit since the Ashland. Coming back with about 2 months of a little less than 2 months of rest. And if she takes the Santa Anita turf, she's going to love it. Of course, she was a turf horse before the Ashland anyway. So I think Room Service is the key here. A Little Journey, the 3-horse, has only 1 race in the United States, so that was in the Edgewood at Churchill, and ran really well. And Joe Bravo is riding the filly here, so he makes the trip from the East Coast out here to take a shot at the American Oaks. And the other horses in here, Sweet Bliss has a shot. Neshoba's Gold. Underneath those 2, I could go Room Service with Little Journey with possibly all, but I would do an exacta box 3-8 with Room Service and Little Journey.
Little Journey for me, second out the layoff, and I thought that was a really good field in the Edgewood. Horse ran second, came back Istenford and beat the boys up at Arlington last week, and I think you make a really good point about Bravo going out to take the ride here as well. So I like Little Journey a good bit in here. I think the mile and a quarter ought to be a good fit for her. So I'll think better to win, bet her as the key horse in exactas with Sweet Bliss, the 2 Neshoba's Gold, the 7 Diversey Harbor, maybe a little bit, and I kind of initially had taken a stand against Room Service, but you make a really good point about that distance from this back to the 3rd horse, so I would throw Room Service in there as well. But Little Journey, the key horse for me in the Grade 1 American Oaks. So I think some pretty good betting situations on the cards on Saturday. And, boy, it's going to be a bonanza next weekend up in New York with all of those stakes races. And folks will be able to wager on Friday if they would like on the Belmont Day card. Is that right?
That's correct. We'll have advanced wagering at the drive-thru starting at 8 o'clock on Friday, and in the grandstand at about 12:30. And Belmont has that. They have 6 Grade 1s. It's the best day in racing. They're advertising outside the Breeders' Cup in the country, and they really put the Met Miles that day. The Woody Stevens. You got some great races, and there's a little horse called California Chrome that might be running at the end too.
It's going to be quite a day, and we'll have a good chance to look at those races for next week's edition of the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.